Welcome to the next episode of the CAPB podcast. Today for the session we have Harry Mackiness, a coach, a veteran, and an all-round good guy, mate, travelling the world. How's things, Harry?
Yeah, stop it.
Hey,
Yeah,
mate.
good, thanks, mate. Honestly, delighted to be here. It's one of those things we've actually been talking about this for a while, haven't we? And actually finally got around to getting it done. So yeah, delighted to be here. Shoot the shit. See how many people we can probably offend in one video, and how much unusable content we can make in one go.
Well, I love that, mate. I love it. I can't wait to hear your story and the details behind it because you're, from the outsider looking in on your socials, you are living the best life, mate. Traveling the
Yeah.
world, all that kind of stuff. But I know it does. It's not always quite as simple as that, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I am guilty, certainly, of sort of showing the best sides of things, and I do make a conscious effort to try and show some of the realities of stuff, certainly some of the past that I went through and why I ended up going traveling. How I fell into social media, I have absolutely no idea. I mean, somewhat of a therapy sort of tool and somewhat of a vanity metric and somewhat business, like, of course it is. But I think there's certain parts where, yeah, it's all well and good showing a picture on a beach, but frankly, anyone can do that. I'm kind of lucky that I found a place to settle down where it's warm, it's hot, and yeah, you walk around with no shirt on when like 90% of the time because it is such nice weather. But that being said, there were some pretty grisly parts before that, which certainly didn't involve that sort of lifestyle. And I think, to be honest, my story, as you say, it is a people have been following it along. People who sort of found me at the beginning when I was in my darkest moments and have seen it go through. And honestly, I kind of sometimes I have to just pinch myself and remind myself where it started and why and how I've managed to make, I guess, a success of it. But it's an evolving story. It's a developing thing, and I also never believe everything you see on social media. I have a great time sometimes and a bad time other times, like everybody else.
Mate, honestly, I can't wait to hear all about it. You served for 10 years in total in the army, finishing with the Light Dragoons. If your career was a highlight reel, the good bits, the bits that you really cherish, what does that look like, Harry?
I mean, there are a lot, and again, I think it's really easy for people to sort of gob off about how bad bits were when they go in the military, and that seems to be actually what we hear all the time. So I think really important to focus on the positive bits or the things that at least had a positive impact. So I say, starting at training, so Sandhurst, hell of a year. It's a hell of a year. It's not as hard, I guess, as everybody makes it out to be, but there are times, certainly. Um, it's a long old slog, but you come out the other end of it a totally different person to who went in, and I think that's quite often forgotten by army officers. So I think that's a real positive. That is the whole bit is a highlight reel. Uh, I actually sort of anecdotally, a friend of mine, he messaged me on social media a couple of years ago, and we've now become really good mates. I went to his commissioning parade and everything, but his mother said to me at the commissioning parade, he's such a different person. I was like, yeah, but for the better. I look at who I was when I was a student versus who I was when I came out as a commissioned officer, and I'm glad to say they're very different people. Uh, um, most of the time, anyway. And
Yeah.
but then I think going forwards there are a lot of I think the start of my career actually was pretty rough because I commissioned in the parachute regiment, got injured, and therefore had to transfer units, which at the time, you've picked your unit, you've picked where you're going to commission into and worked hard to get towards it, and it's a real downer. But then I was very fortunate to kind of get the chance to choose again. So I went to the Light Dragoons, who were very welcoming, and first few years just a lot of Wessex storms and stuff like that. It really wasn't that exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Many weeks on the plane, but the thing about the Light Dragoons, they travel a lot. It's a very easily deployed unit. Jackals, you can drive them everywhere, and my God, doesn't the army know it? So, exercises out in places like Morocco. So rather than just having to go on the plane every time, there was some exercise out in Morocco. I got to do some counter-terrorism stuff out in Tunisia, which was epic. Just really small team. We flew out on I think it was the first operational use of an A400, and it landed on a desert runway. It was, I mean, mate, it was real Lawrence of Arabia stuff. Like we had the CTLO out there, the counterterrorism liaison officer for North Africa, was a Royal Marine who had been in the sun a bit long, I think, and he just strolled across the sand and walked up, and he was wearing sort of khaki pants and a sort of khaki shirt, and he just sort of went, "Hello, gentlemen, welcome to the desert." And I was like, "Oh God, what are we in for?" Um, But it was really interesting because it was kind of my first time going on what was a really small deployment like that and quite niche and basically a bit of fob life.
Yeah.
There was a couple of really weird incidents while we were out there. There was some like green on green stuff that happened, people having to tourniquet people up. Then the so what's because of that. I was the 2IC at the time, so we had to go and get. The guy wasn't wearing gloves when he went to go and do the tourniquet because someone had been shot through the leg, and so he had to go and get blood tests and all this to make sure he hadn't picked up anything from them. And that actually, those moments are huge sort of highlights because it puts you in a situation that you've trained for but never had to go and do it, and people doing this. And then basically everything just really ramped up after that from, I'd say like a downer would be obviously going to the Falklands. That for me was just, I mean, I got really fit, like absolutely jacked. I just drank all the time and fizzed all the time. So that was quite fun. But I'll be honest with you, I struggled in such a RAF heavy environment.
Yeah.
Really struggled, and I'm not gonna lie, they struggled with me as well, as they told me quite routinely. Group captain, whatever his name was, or wing commander, I don't know, whatever he is, Lord of the Skies down there, was deeply hated me. So that was good. So I used the brigadier, who was army, for a shielding, but it only works so much when you're a captain. And then I went off to 77 Brigade about a year or two later, and I had some really, really interesting stuff to do there. The work they do there is phenomenal. Very constrained by policy and just the army's lack of appetite for a lot of stuff, or defence's lack of appetite. But I got attached to MAB and got to then spend a few years working with MAB overseas and in the UK, which was really exhilarating because I mean when you talk about the ability to and sort of freedom of operation, freedom of action, I was allowed to do a lot of stuff that the regular defense would have had a heart attack about. And I had a huge budget to play with. We did some really cool stuff. You've got access to loads of information. So yeah, the final few years sort of operationally were very intense and very busy. Even during COVID, I can't even believe I forgot this one. I was working in Downing Street during COVID. Like Boris literally coughed on me the day before he got COVID, he went down with COVID. So yeah, like there was.
I've got it.
Oh mate, we didn't even know. He came in and he said, "Hello, gents, well done, you're all doing very well." And then the next day, TV goes on. It's like Prime Minister in hospital, and we're all there like, "What?"
You weren't behind any of those parties, Harry, were you?
No comment. I wasn't behind any of them. I'll tell you that. I wasn't behind any of them. That's for sure.
Mate, I think,
but it is interesting reading about them and understand and knowing what people talk about. I'm like, well, that's not right. That person wasn't there. Oh.
Mate, I think it's ace, and I think having like you joined as a DE officer and having served for like 10 years, the opportunity to lead, because that's what you go through Sanders for, is to lead, isn't it? And the fact that you've deployed all over and been responsible for people, that's huge, isn't it? It's a huge thing. Leadership's a huge thing.
Absolutely. And the hardest leadership tasks are, I mean, look, I only went up to being a captain. I banged in my chit when I got promoted to major because the phrase I used to my boss was, "Have you ever seen a happy major?" And he was like, "Yeah, fair enough." So I banged in my chit and left after that. But I think the hardest leadership tasks that I ever came across was never in something where you had a lot going on. It was when there's nothing going on. So your prime examples for that were things like Cabrit, and going to Cabrit as a Squadron 2IC with 150 soldiers, tens of millions of pounds worth of kit and fuel and ammo and all this kind of stuff in a multinational environment where there's a bar directly outside the camp. All of this stuff actually was the hardest part of it, and I'm glad I got to experience it, and I'm glad I don't have to do it again, if I'm honest. Finding Lance Jacks stumbling out of a bar, 1 minute after curfew, for example, where personally not an issue for me, but you break the rule once, you have to break it for everybody, and it just sets the tone. And getting that, hey, can you go and round up all the full screws who are in the thing, you're like, oh, boss, it's Christmas. Yeah, it is for me as well, mate. And look, I'm here in uniform in a car, get in.
Yeah.
So I think it is a real challenge, and it's one that you have to embrace it so fully. And I think everyone in the army knows this. At any rank, there is, other than right at when you join right up, you have some sort of leadership responsibility. There's no one keener than a newly promoted captain or a newly promoted lance jack, right?
I mean,
And
I don't know, mate. I don't know. Newly promoted, like second lieutenants when they turn up to a unit,
Lieutenant,
mate.
mate. Oh, they're another
really,
level. Yeah.
but
Sweet.
I feel like it only lasts for like a day, and they're like, oh, I actually have no power whatsoever.
But the
They're like
issue you
hyperactive puppies, mate.
mate, the issue
They
you
are.
both have, the issue you both have. I was med corps, mate.
Oh,
So
here we go.
no. What I'm saying is, people who come out of Sandhurst, people don't go to Sandhurst to say, I really want to be a med support officer. They don't
Some
do that.
do. Some do.
Bullshit. So what happens is they all pick their cap badges and go to these big engineers, infantry, cav, and then they're like, yeah, you guys go med corps. You guys left go med corps. So, mate,
Okay, right. Like the Light Dragoons, when we moved out of Norfolk, we moved up to Catterick, which for me was an absolute nightmare. So like, I've just been in Catterick with the parachute regiment, like as an instructor at ITC. I really didn't want to come back to the same building. But we got moved in with 3 and 5 med on camp.
Yeah.
And now, like the med regiments don't really have like a big mess life. They're not, compared to a cavalry unit anyway. Very fancy, all this kind of stuff. Whilst the Light Dragoons is not a fancy regiment in terms of the way they do things, the history is there, right? And there's a lot of stuff that goes in the mess. You should have seen the arguments, like I mean, tearing the mess apart when. We're like, right, well, it's our mess now, and it was according to the army, so we're going to put up our paintings. Absolutely not. We come in here all the time. Yeah. What I would say about med officers is, I think honestly, like I met some really, really fantastic people there who genuinely like their clinical, their skills are amazing in the way they manage the stuff with all of the soldiers in their unit and the other ranks. But I can understand that it also must be frustrating for them to have this like reputation of not doing this. And I think this is where Army Gen comes in, right? It's like people think cavalry officers are like, oh, is it true you have to have a second and third income to be a cavalry officer? I was like, clearly not. Absolutely not. I just turned up and lived off my army salary, and same as everybody else. It's these stereotypes then perpetuate whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, come on. There's always a point, isn't there? There's always a point. It's the same, Air Corps. Everyone applies to be a pilot, but only so many can get through the Air Corps pilot selection process, and then they go to become the ground support officers or what they are. But there'll be some who always join to be that, but for the most part, it's going to be people who didn't make it through the Apache selection process. And I don't in any way begrudge them the fact that they went for it, because good on you, man. Like I heard what was in that test, I was like, not a chance. Idiot over here is never getting maths with this hand and like doing a joystick thing with this. Are you joking? I don't know.
You've got to focus, mate. I read in a book, and again, we'll probably edit this bit out, but I read that you've got to focus your eyes on 2 separate things, mate.
Yeah. So 2 screens.
It's like I can't.
2 screens. One's got like coloured shapes and stuff on it, and you've got to like match them to like almost like that sort of child's things, like triangle to triangle, square to square, sort of thing. And one's got maths questions, and you've got to type the answers. I went parachute regiment and then cavalry. Like, I'm not here for doing maths questions on the hoof, mate. I can do distance of 5 kph, but like that's it.
Well, after Harry, you had quite a busy military career. So you then came to put your chit in. Obviously, like you didn't want to be a sad major, as you said. Where did you go from there?
So. Well, it was, I mean, I guess I'm quite lucky because I went to go work for the company that I had been working with. So they were the contractors providing, it's real gamekeeper turned poacher stuff, that real revolving door. So I'd been working with this company for a good few years. They were delivering some pretty specialized stuff on operations. And I then, when I quit, they were like, well, we would like you to come work for us. So I didn't have to, thankfully, go through any like job interview stuff, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, I said to the CEO, he was to have my mobile number, and he was like, I was like, do you want a CV? He was like, why would I want to read a CV? I've known you for 4 years and I've literally seen what you do. And I was like, okay, well, do I need an interview? He was like, that was 3 years ago, mate. And he's like, you're in. And that was great. And, I walked in and there was just a bunch of other ex-military people, ex-coppers, spies, that sort of stuff. So I think I was quite lucky in that transition that we went to go and do. So military world, you could still swear in the office and not get in trouble. you know, the stories were very much like horrific, not safe for work stories, but we were just sharing them in the office, you know,
Yeah.
really good because it made that transition very easy. I guess then the social side of it, of moving out of triple SA into a house and having to pay a gas bill, you know, like I hadn't done that since I was at university. That was all a bit of a shock. But I moved in with one of my best mates who from the army as well. So he was a King's Royal Hussars officer, and we met on the ski trip, and then became like best mates. And then a civvy who her dad gave her a super expensive house, and she needed housemates. So we moved into there in West London, and it was all. I mean, it was lovely. Don't get me wrong. I kicked the arse out of being a civvy to start with. Um, but they're sort of I'm just not I suffer with hangovers so badly. I just couldn't be the guy that went out on Thursday nights until you know, I mean, there were moments where you'd have, you know, you'd see people come walking to work having not gone to bed yet
Yeah.
over in West London. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. I do not know how you do that. Come downstairs and just find like, you know, my housemate is absolutely hanging, like trying to make a cup of coffee. I'm like, I just can't do it, guys. But I think that lifestyle, that lifestyle actually then kind of caught up with me quite a lot. Sure, we all have our rogue moments, but I wasn't particularly bad, like kick the ass out of it on weekends. But what that led to was kind of a deterioration in both kind of the physical and mental side of what I was enjoying doing. Being surrounded, you know, even West London is pretty low rise, there's lots of green spaces, but I very much started to feel very constrained in London and kind of regged out for another few years, but then and sort of moved houses a few times. I mean, the joke was always that it was coming up to 12 months, like Harry's about to move, because I literally can't sit still, as you might have noticed. And then yeah, it got to the end of 2023. That kind of inflationary crisis had been going on all year, and no one was getting paid anymore, and everything's getting more expensive. And I just had one moment where I realised that I'd not put any money aside that month at all, and for like a couple of months. And I thought, right, well, I am now literally the definition of living to work. I'm getting on the tube. I'm waking up. It's dark. It's raining. I'm getting on the tube, going into the city, into like a very fancy office that we weren't being sort of paid enough to be able to live around.
Yeah.
Much like everybody there, to be honest. But we did that, and then I was also the head of business development, so working on the military side of stuff. So I was in and out with my mates into the MOD all the time. A lot of kind of late nights and dinners and taking people out for drinks and stuff like that because it's a lot of schmoozing. And that, you know, when you're going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and then you're expected to be kind of up and ready to work at normal time the next day, you know, kind of 8:30 or whatever. I just thought, God, what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't love this. I really don't love this. And I certainly don't love it enough to stick it out for even longer. So yeah, bang my shit in there. The rest is history.
Did you just when you decided to leave your civvy job, was the plan always to travel, or was the plan to?
Yeah, I think a bit. So I had actually discussed with them about, and I don't want to slag off my old job, right? Because genuinely, they gave me the opportunity straight out of the military. Like I did really enjoy, like I loved the people I worked with. The job was really interesting. They just weren't very good at managing people, shockingly. And there's a bunch of ex-military people in there. They weren't good at managing their people. So I said that I would like to take a sabbatical, just a few months to just go and do something a bit different. Now, bear in mind, we worked in the military sphere very much. Like it's contracting to the MOD, the DOD, places like that. Um, I said that I felt like I was just getting shot down a bit about some of the places that I wanted to go and try and sell business into. One of those places being like Ukraine. Um, and we all know people who have gone out there and joined a good fight and, you know, been out mercenarying out there and starting businesses and things like that. And they sort of rightly or wrongly, I think wrongly, but they said, no, we're not going to let you go out there while you work for us. Like our kidnap insurance won't cover it or whatever. You've worked in a DV cleared environment for years and years. Like, you know, you can't, we're not sending you out. So I just started saving up money. I started saving up money where I could. And eventually when I quit, they could have just let me go and come back and they would have kept me for at least another couple of years. But they were so shit basically about managing it that I was just like, do you know what? I'm done. Like I'm going to quit. And so I've got money saved up. I'm going to go. There was a bit of they were quite haughty with it as well. A bit of at least a managing director engineer, who They're all engineers, actually. Like the boss of the company is great. The managing director, he and I, like we got on really well. We're good mates, but we used to really butt heads on stuff. But yeah, he there was a bit from him that was kind of like, yeah, how are you going to afford to do that? Like, you're complaining about how expensive London is. I was like, because I've been stashing it away, and I stashed it away when I was in the military. And realistically, I could afford to now go and do this for like several years because I won't be paying any income tax because it's all savings and stuff. So actually, I only need to live off that much. And so yeah, then I disappeared off, gave myself a treat, went skiing for a month, which was really nice to then get the business like set up properly. Went with a mate. We rented a 1-bed apartment with a pull-out sofa outside of the main ski resort. Like, we couldn't afford it inside the ski resort. Like, well, we'll go to that little place down the road, and then we'll just hope the car can make it in the morning. Which, yeah, my like dropped down Audi, like with no snow tires on, really struggled with a few real hairy moments. But we get up in the morning, run up the hill, jump in the lake or like the fresh water, ski for an hour, come back, and then we both had our own businesses, so we were then just sat in front of our computers for a bit, and then come lunchtime, go off, do another hour skiing, and then try and get an hour at the end of the day, but realistically probably not. And we didn't drink, didn't anything like that, just like really focused, really locked in on business and fizz and everything, and it was really good. And then
Harry, just with the business, was that fitness coaching?
Yeah, so that was fitness coaching. So I set it up when I kind of worked out. I actually set it up kind of relatively soon after leaving the military, because I just saw a lot of my friends had got kind of really unhealthy. But it's, the thing is, getting fit is not difficult. The difficult part is trusting that the process is going to work. So what you need in this case for a lot of people is that they just need somebody to go, here is this plan, which you're going to stick to. And if it's too much or too little, you need somebody who does it without you thinking about it, because everybody has, everybody's notes app is just a graveyard of attempted workout plans that they never stuck to for more than kind of, a week or a month. If you just open up an app or a PDF or whatever, and it's got it there, you just go. And so I licensed an app. I started building this up. I got it for my friends. They're all very busy, work full-time jobs. And I was like, you can just walk into Pure Gym, open this up, and it will be there. You don't have to get it all done. Like, set a timer, say 45 minutes, because you've got enough time. You haven't got enough time in the evening. You just need to go and do this. That's fine. Go and do it. And I promise you, within, a month or so, 6 weeks, you will be in so much better shape. And I did that for civvies to start. And then I started building ones for people to take on deployments with them. So, we've all got that storeman who was like, no, I'm going to get fit on tour. Okay, do it. So I built like the deployment packs, which worked for that. And the results were amazing. I was getting sergeant majors from guards units messaging me being like, I don't know what you have in that plan, man, but our fat guy can run now. And so, but it's great, right? You start off, I always started the same way. I'd start it off with like the kind of the bulking phase. So getting the weights in, doing the thing. Even the bigger guys, I'm like, just do it, because you're probably just fat rather than strong. You might tell everyone that you can deadlift loads, but it's probably not that much. So build it up, build the strength, and get used to the conditioning and building that muscle. Second phase would be slowly cutting it down, and the third phase would be a much more cardio focused thing. So it would really shred off any last bits of fat. But most importantly, if it's 3 months, that's each side of sort of R&R, if you get that middle R&R slot. But it meant that when you went back to the UK, you were actually fit. Your missus was happy. Your sergeant major was happy. And it all kind of worked, and it did very well. And then it's just kind of grown from there, really.
Mate, I think it's fascinating. When did you realise that it was like a business over a side hustle? When did you realise you could actually turn the corner here? I can live off this, versus nice to dabble.
Do you know what? I think probably realistically only this year, because I spent 2024 traveling, and I had some clients in the app that I just that I continue to work with, and I worked with them because I can do it from anywhere on my laptop, but it wasn't a huge amount. And I built like a standalone thing as well, so it could just people just pay a monthly subscription, a cheap monthly subscription, and just get it through. So that obviously works, but it wasn't enough to live off for sure. So it was bringing in a bit, and it would cover a few of my bills, like whilst I was out traveling. But again, it's a business rather than going into my personal bank account. So I couldn't even take the money out for most things. So once I started then including the kind of social media side of things, then you can actually legitimize business expenses for certain things as well. But it really wasn't generating much money at all. And I used my savings to travel. And then this year I was like, right, I'm much more focused. I know that I want to take this full time. I know that I want to do this more often. And you know, I got now it was bizarre, man. Like I get sponsored for stuff and people send me free stuff and I have no idea. It's just, you know, as you said, combat fuel. I'm like the fourth combat fuel sort of athlete to come on here, and you know, big up Alex because he's good at finding people online. But also he should probably pay us more. If you're watching this, Alex.
We've had Alex on as well, actually.
Yeah, well, I'll give him a shot across the bows because Huel were in my DMs last night asking if I want to get a sponsored athlete. So watch it, Alex. I had a Combat Fuel t-shirt on earlier, but I took it off. Just, you know, he gets enough.
Just in case.
Yeah, and don't forget, everyone, that's code Harry if you're buying off Combat Fuel. That's fine.
No, you mentioned social media there, and I think it'd be remiss to not talk about the fact that you're pretty successful on social media. There's a number of things that stand out. Nearly 100,000 followers on Instagram, which is crazy. And some of your viral stuff mentioned on national telly, coming from a background where we don't really talk about social media, don't really use social media, very frowned upon. So how do you talk us through that?
Yeah, it was definitely a weird one. Do you know what? I've never really been afraid of using social media like at all. I've always embraced it. I think even since the early days of sort of Facebook and stuff like that. I'm a person who likes to share stories, but I think I more than that. I actually like to hear stories, and to be honest, that's what my traveling was. It was a lot of just meeting cool people and hearing stories. And the people you meet, man. You know, I went out to Ukraine, and you meet all the amount of ex-Brit Mill guys out there, right? It's outrageous, and all across the world. So that became a sort of thing. I was like, well, I've got to be documenting this. And I think a part of it started with me just doing a bit of stuff in London. You know, I just for those who don't know, basically, after I left the military, actually, like I went to kill myself. It was a pretty dark time, and then I had to have that moment where I thought, like, dude, you need to get out of this because you know if you don't step this up, you are not going to be here. And that was a pretty rough realization. And I went through DCMH for a good period of time. I hadn't cried in 30 years, and I cried pretty much every day for about 6 months after that. And to anyone who's listening, if you ever find yourself in that situation, for fuck's sake, go and call someone. DCMH are brilliant, absolutely top notch. But speak to someone professional, because I didn't, and I bottled it up. And if someone hadn't pushed me to go and get help, there's no way I'd be here. And that is, I think, where the story really started. I just spoke kind of openly about that. I documented my life in London. I talked about being low, like having these low like moments, and just kind of little stuff around London. And then it kind of, as I was traveling, it becomes less relatable. You know, I'm like, hey, look, there's a Russian missile, and people are like, well, that has no relation to my life whatsoever, but it's interesting. And then I kind of just went and did more stuff, just put myself in the hurt locker at various points to go and see what was possible. I mean, I think it says a lot about me, and I'm definitely not better yet, because I'm like, oh, what should I do today? I'll go run through the Sahara, or go to Ukraine, or go up a mountain and lie to the guide and say I've done loads of mountaineering before. But yeah, it's the whole social media thing is strange. I think the military's embracing it a lot more. Let's be honest, there's some absolute crap on the internet from people in uniform. Some really bad stuff. I would always say this to people, like, I am somebody who uses social media. There are pictures of me in uniform on social media, which I put up there. That is from after I left. Yes, I know that they now allow you to use social media, but you should be very careful about what it is that you're putting on there, because your personal reputation, like, is my business, right? If somebody doesn't like something I put up there, it doesn't really bother me, because I do this all the time. If you are somebody who's in an office job, or you're in the military, you're on ship, like I see dancing videos from on ship. I'm like, guys, just the OPSEC alone is terrible. And don't get caught out, because the military really hates to be caught out. And so just, yeah, look, some stuff is fine, some stuff is not. But then conversely, I would say if stuff is actually fine, and it's just someone in uniform talking about experiences in the military, and they've got permission to do it, we also need to stop jumping down people's throats about it. Like, accept that there are people that are going to do this stuff, accept that sometimes those people are a really positive image of the military,
Yeah.
and a lot of the time they are not.
I think, mate. I think there's two things I'm going to pick up on, and then the first one is, mate. So a huge hats off to you for your vulnerability online and your vulnerability in telling your story. You are, if you want, the stereotypical alpha male on social media. You're a big, strong bloke, built like a brick shit house. And for people to say, "Oh, you like talk about crying, talk about being," that's really important, mate. I think it's really important. That's the first thing. The second thing is, um, social media. For you to have a business in this day and age and not use social media, I think you're crazy. And we've had a few people on loads on the podcast who have just absolutely embraced the whole social media process because they know it's advertising, it's branding, it's marketing, it's clients, it's feedback, and I think it's huge, mate,
Yeah, and I think from a business perspective, you're absolute idiot if you're not using it. I don't use it to its fullest potential either. So things like paid ads, if I was starting again, I am doing it just from a business perspective. I would be using paid ads for sure. I've got a lot of friends who have pretty successful businesses and they swear by it, but that tends to be more if you're selling a physical product, I think. But understand, this is where my sort of 77 Brigade bit kicks in. So I could be a lot better at social media, but I also have a real issue with professionalizing it, as it were, because I think that removes then some of the authenticity of it. I have a brand, and then that a lot of that is driven around a personal brand as well. So personal branding is important, but not everybody, and I hate to say this, but not everybody is a personal brand, nor does everybody deserve to be a personal brand. That is not up to us who gets to be a personal brand. It is up to how you portray yourself online and what the consumer thinks. My my brand, my business is fitness coaching, and I'm going to be actually changing the way the company's structured over the next few days anyway, because I now have to include some various other revenue streams that come from things like advertising. But then your personal brand is completely separate. And yes, you can bring the two together, but never confuse them and make them one and the same if you're selling something like a physical product. I absolutely love my prime, like who I love on social media right now in terms of a business social media sort of aspect is, Alex is going to hate this, but Salt. It's the electrolytes company that's been set up, and it's run by a guy called Henry, who is a friend of mine, and then a girl called Millie. I think she's called Millie, and she's like a big influencer in her 20s. Henry was the social media guy for Pure Sport, and he took them from zero to hero so quickly by making it an engaging, he drew the audience in, and he came up with fantastic ideas that blended real world stuff and social media. So he would advertise stuff here, get people in, and then get them to feed back into the social media loop. So if you share a picture of you on our run club this morning with us tagged, you will get 10% off your purchase of our supplements or our bright colored socks, right? They were the guys that came up with this bright, the bright colored running socks that you see everywhere. He then left to go and start his own electrolytes company, and he's doing it with this girl. And it's the story, or well before they'd launched a product, they were taking everybody through the minutiae of the issues they had of trying to create a brand and a product, and the legal issues, and the like taste testing the things, and not having money for advertising. So they've got Hen is like there, sort of bent, like leaning on a chair with a pair of goggles while she throws water in his face, and they're trying to get the pictures and like all this kind of stuff. And they met on Tinder, and it just didn't work out, and now they're housemates, and they've both got other relationships, and like it is such a compelling story that when they came to their pre-sale, everything was sold out, like completely sold out. They got people to send in pictures of themselves. If you were on their WhatsApp group, send in a picture of yourself, and then they took out a billboard in the middle of like St. Pancras or something, and everyone who sent in a picture got to be on the billboard. Nothing to do with the brand at all. It just had that. And I just thought, you know what? These guys get it. They will do so well.
Yeah.
And he is a marketing genius, and he will do so well at anything he does. And I just, I couldn't agree more. You've got to, where do we find? I don't Google anything anymore. I chat GPT it, or I search it on TikTok, or I search it on Instagram.
Teg said something. We have Tegs on, and Teg said, and then then we'll go on to the next thing. But Teg said every single thing has been done on social media. Said you can do nothing new on social media. He said it's all about how you do it. And it made so much sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Well, obviously, Tegs and I literally had a really good catch up with Tegs yesterday, actually. And so Tegs came out to Thailand to come and see me. He was going to go Bali, then Thailand, but I was already there. So he came out to visit. Oh man, if walls could talk. And and they're not going to, I'm afraid. Um, and then we went to Bali and we went to the villa together there. And you've seen like where the snake ended up in a house, and it's just two idiot blokes running around the place having a laugh. But we also what you don't see the backside of that is because we always post funny content. Like our content is based around us and who we are as people. What you didn't see was that 90% of the day is us sat in silence at our laptops, just opposite each other, just working. But that doesn't make for fun content. So it's about how do you generate interest in what you're doing, show off your personality, because your personality is key. And as a coach, this is exactly what I get. Like when people book in for calls with me, if they want to apply to be on the coaching program, it's not just they apply and I'm like, cool, you're in. I mean, I do like at least an hour call with people beforehand just to even see if we're going to be a good fit. But the amount of people that say, oh, I'm like, how did you find out about me? It's always going to be through social media because I don't advertise anywhere else. But the answer is always, I've watched your story and I just feel like I resonate with you. So you get it. Like I will always talk, if I'm tired, like this week where I'm training for these ultra marathons and I am absolutely hooped. Like I've got nothing left in the tank. Why I'm standing up for this interview, I don't know. But did leg day yesterday and then running. It's because I didn't get, what was that?
Active recovery. That's why you're standing up.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, we'll go with that. It's because I wanted my fancy camera set up, and then actually turns out the MacBook one's better. But yeah, so I will show people. I'll be like, look, here is my sleep schedule for this week, and it's like 3 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, whatever. I'm hooped, and I'm absolutely hating life. And do you know what? I'm going to take a day off or 2 days off because I simply do not have the physical energy. And that seems to be something that then comes back from people saying, look, you seem to just kind of get it. You're not just going to give me a training plan. And this could work for anything, right? I'm using coaching as an example, but you're not just going to give me a training plan and be like, cool, see you in a month. Like, that's just not how it works. I speak to my clients every day, pretty much, which takes a long time. You're part therapist, part coach, part nutritionist, part all of this. And actually for me, I very much take the view that if you are not in the right place up here, you're never going to be in the right place physically, because it'd be the last thing that's on your mind. I mean, the only flip side of that is that in the military, a lot of people use physical exercise to combat the sort of internal demons. I know I did when I was getting towards the end of it. 2 hours, I did an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, redlining. And I mean like 200 beats a minute heart rate for like an hour of CrossFit before I went into work, and then when I finished, because for just an hour each day, an hour each time, the voices stopped, and if they came back, it just kind of made me work a bit harder, throw things a bit further, lift up a bit heavier. But for most people in for Civvy Street, it's not that. It's about understanding that if you get this in line, everything else starts to fall into place. And physical and sort of mental well-being are inextricably linked. You can't have one without the other, to be honest.
You've had a very continually successful business. What's next for you?
Well, interestingly, here you go. Here's the scoop. I have actually just had my visa approved to work in Thailand for the next 5 years, which is really cool. Yeah, thanks, man. Like, honestly, it's actually a very simple process, but I was so nervous about it because a lot of people go about it the wrong way. But I just do everything by the book, right? I'm just not life by the book, but certainly process by the book.
Yeah.
And yeah, that means I can now work remotely out in Thailand. So the rule for this visa is that you have to bring your money in from outside the country, and you've got to prove that you've got enough in your bank accounts and your incomes and that kind of stuff. But it does mean that the immediate short term, while I'm here in the UK, it's prepping for these charity ultra marathons. So that's back to back, like 50-kilometer ultra marathons in fact, exactly where I was doing the counterterrorism stuff in Tunisia.
No biggie then. No biggie. Just a simple.
Yeah, it's very weird to be going back there because last time we were there, it was like armed escorts, and now it's just Foxy.
Foxy and silky shorts.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wanted to do it in budgie smugglers, mate, but I thought the sunburn would be horrendous.
And the chafing.
Could you imagine? No, mate, no budgie. I will tell this: budgie smugglers, right? budgie smugglers do not chafe. They honestly, it's why rugby players wear them underneath their shorts. Mate, they are so comfortable to run in. I don't know how it's happened. The only reason I know this is because I was wearing some, put some shorts over the top and forgot. And I went for a run, and honestly, brilliant. Like, genuinely brilliant.
Take that, mate.
Obviously, discount code in my bio as well, so that's fine. No, genuinely, they work. But I think, yeah, maybe the Sahara isn't the right place to be running bare-assed across a desert in a predominantly Muslim country either. I think probably not respectful. But yeah, so got that coming up, and then on mid-November, I shall be flying back to Thailand and getting a house, sort myself out for the next few years, and then just continuing to do what I'm already doing. So continue to grow the business. I actually really, really have been looking at businesses to invest in or buy or set up another one, because I would like to own or run gyms, but based around kind of the training that I do, because I find whenever you go to a gym, like, you're always like, it's so nearly there, but not quite. I'm like, why can't people get this? So I'd like to do that. Tegs and I actually considered opening one together as well in Spain. So we got pretty far through the planning as well. That, never know, might still happen. I'm going to start doing retreats, I think. So I hate the word retreat, but we think I'm doing it with another ex-army officer, and he lives in Dubai, and we're thinking that actually we're going to call it the No Retreat. And but it's kind of about getting the lads back together. Start off, I think, by just probably doing a men only one, or at least offering like some men only ones alongside the normal ones, because I've just seen the benefit there is to especially ex-military personnel of getting back together and just having a bit of a, it's not like the Reggie dinner, right? It's, if you get to the other side of the world and you've got 10 days to go and absolutely put yourself in the locker with some fears, go climb some hills, go scuba diving, and also just sit around in the evening, have a beer or a Diet Coke or whatever it is you want, and just like spin dits with each other. I think it's so important, and I've noticed it, the amount of veterans that message me and are like, can I come and visit? And I've literally had it. So another combat fuel athlete, actually, Tom Collins, just came out. He was having a bit of a rough time. Like, Tom and I had only met once at a combat fuel barbecue before. And he messaged me and I was like, Tom, get on a plane, fly to Bangkok. I will tell you where I am. You come and stay. And he came for 3 weeks. And honestly, you could just see like the weight lifting off him, because he just suddenly, it was like removing himself slightly from home life, just for a quick break and a reset and a talk to somebody else and talk to different people, train really hard with much fewer distractions. And also my best mate who I've made out in Thailand is literally a one-legged paratrooper. So he got blown up in Afghanistan, and we met, and literally like 2 days later he was at my birthday and we were drinking out of his leg. So but you know, and it just shows, like, because we do, as veterans, you sort of gravitate towards each other, and you can spot a veteran a mile off, even if they're not doing a naked bar. You can spot them a mile away.
It was one of the reasons we started the podcast, to be honest.
Why wouldn't we do it? Hold on. Why wouldn't they do a naked bar? Isn't that normal?
Fucking engineer.
Mate, you come see me in Thailand. Come see me in Thailand. A lot worse goes on than naked bar. I tell you that. I'll point you in the direction. I'll go to bed. I'm in bed by like 10 o'clock. That's fine. Yeah. But I will let you run riot in Heroes Bar, the veterans bar on the Bangla Road.
Mate, yeah, I come from a different breed of naked bar. Yeah, I mean, probably not going to shock me if I'm honest. But...
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying you can get your fill, mate.
I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Like the veteran thing. So Paul and I, what we love about the podcast is speaking to veterans, speaking to fellow veterans, being able to instantly connect and have that conversation. And I think that's one of the things that we love. And like you said, you mentioned as well about like the retreats and getting people together. The last guest we had, so the next episode of the podcast, which will come out just before yours, he was Royal Artillery, 29 Commando, and he lives in North Wales, and he's again had some troubles on leaving. He set up a organisation called Men Tribe, and it's just about bringing blokes together, getting on the hills in North Wales. And anyway, they've in the last sort of like, they've not been going a year yet. They've now got a football team. He has these retreats, and it's a lot of veterans are involved in it, to a point where they do like monthly veteran walks where veterans can just come together, do cold water stuff, get on the hill, around the fire. And he just started from nothing, and it's so important. I completely get it.
But when I was basically the Light Dragoons. You know, every regiment has their home headquarters or whatever that deals with kind of the veteran stuff. And let's face it, a lot of the time they're not that good. And the Light Dragoons, we just, you know, look, there is an epidemic right now of veteran suicides, and it's horrific, absolutely horrific. I mean, how many have we had just in the last 6-7 weeks? I think we're up to like 6 or 7, which is
horrible, mate.
absolute. I mean, it is just so wrong that this is happening. And again, you know, it's amazing because then you get to point out things like, you know, the retreats up in Wales. When I was having a really shitty time, the Light Dragoons set up a new organisation called the Peer Support Group, and it's not official as such, like it's semi-official, but it's the old like RSM, and he works for a pretty big company, and he's got them to put some money behind it and things like that, and so they pay for things like we went up to Lake District, and I went there, mate, and I was the youngest by 30 years, right? And I got there, and we climbed up, jumping in the lakes, like jumping in things, and it was so great for me because I didn't know any of these guys, and they actually had all served together, and they were all, I mean, they drank me under the table in the evening. I woke up the next day, I was like, I remember going to bed, I was absolutely hammered, and I was like, I'm going to start like probably crying soon, so it's time for me to go to bed. As one of them comes back down with like another bottle of whiskey, I was like, absolutely fucking not. Got up the next morning and I was like, I do not understand how you lot are alive, because I'm barely alive and I'm 30 years younger than you. And we got there, but you know, one of the guys had cancer, one of the guys had one leg, you know, all this kind of stuff. Really cool to just get everyone around. And it's exactly as you said. You walk into a room, there's a bunch of people you've never met before, and everyone's like, all right, dickhead, what's going on? And that's it. That is it. I think my theory from that is that we all got moved around so much in the military, right? You know, you can get dropped in a new unit, a fob, on a course, anything. You're so used to it. You all know you've got to be there. So there's pointless doing all this arse sniffing to start with. Just get on with it and you know, make the most of what you've got.
Paul says, Paul, and I love when you said it, Paul, and you've said it a few times. It's like you all have got that shared understanding of either like being fucked around, even just eating like shit food, like out of a Norwegian container, or drinking water out of a warm water bottle because that's what you. I mean, because you've got a common thing. It's instantly like, I get you. I get you. Oh yeah, I get that. And
yeah, exactly. We've all stumbled out to CO's PT, and then by lunchtime forgotten that we'd actually done it. Yeah. You know, guys, shit, did I miss PT this morning? Like, no, you won it. You know, did I? What even was it? I mean, this is one of my favourite. Nothing business related at all, but one of my absolute favourite moments in the Light Dragoons, and it was a lad had turned up. He was a new guy. He'd been out Thursday night. Like everyone, they were all hanging when we got out, and thankfully, COs. I think it was COs, but it might have been just a random one. But you know, we were split off into squadrons to go and do these kind of various things. And one of them, you know, they had the Beaver Fit sort of other brands are available, obviously, like monkey bars on the thing. I asked them for sponsorship and they haven't got back to me. Monkey bars across the thing. Anyway, we got the lads and they had to like monkey bar to the middle and then like grapple in the middle bit. One of the guys, he's just absolutely hanging. He's like 18 years old, absolute beanpole, and he's just going across this thing. And suddenly you just see him stop, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's gonna happen! It's gonna happen!" And the PTI is just like, "Stay there, stay there," and he's just hanging on this thing and just like down himself. And like, you come off that bar, you're going doing laps of PFA route, and so he's just there hanging on this thing, being sick. And that was that moment. Everyone was like, "Good bloke, well on him."
Yeah, he's in.
He'll always be
that guy.
Yeah, exactly. But also, that's the guy that you know he's always gonna just get on with stuff. Like that guy's not gonna complain about carrying, you know, sort of 6 belts of link.
Yeah.
We had guy tip up for like CO's PT in camelbacks. Other water carrying facility things are available, right? But it was full of like red wine, and he'd just get smashed. And honestly, he just gets smashed.
That's epic. That's so good. It's like you do it with gin and tonics. Do it with gin and tonic when you're skiing. That's what we used to do. Go on the ski trip, and you have to tell the blokes, obviously, and be like, "Right, lads, you've got to hold it together, like during the thing. Everyone's been out on the Ming all night before in the terminal. Right? As long as you've shaved and you get there on time and you can actually ski, you're fine. But if you can't do any of these things, you get sent home. And as an officer, you've got to kind of hold it together that bit more. So we'd all actually just get drunk during the day instead, like gin and tonics in camelbacks. Yeah, absolutely, lads. Just making sure I stay hydrated after last night.
Hydrate or die.
Yeah, big fan.
Mate, I guess we are coming to a close on the pod. I guess it's just one. I guess what the one thing I'd like to ask before we close off is, what's the one bit of advice you would give to someone leaving the forces who was looking at setting up a business? You know.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and actually, you know, this is the kind of thing that I wish I'd sort of looked into more probably when I was leaving. Firstly, once you've got your idea, I think a couple of bits, if you don't mind me, it's a multi-parter, but
Of course.
once you have an idea, like stress test it and then just fucking run with it, right? If you've got the idea, do not half-ass it. If you think this is going to work, you have to go full on. If you think that I like sitting down, filming every bit of my day, editing out videos, coming up with new concepts for everything and putting them out on social media every single day, then you are wrong, because I don't love it, right? But it is part of my business and I have grown to build it into my routine. So there are days that I love it and days that I can't be asked. But my business relies on it. So whatever your idea is, run with it and run fast with it. Get all of your admin, the back end admin done before you launch anything, right? It's all well and good having your Instagram set up and being like, guys, I'm making t-shirts, right? Look, that is a very sort of common military thing to do. Caps, patches, t-shirts and stuff. They're all great. I love all the stuff that I see coming out. But if you don't have your shipping stuff sorted, your accountant sorted, get an accountant, by the way, get an accountant, because fuck me, it's difficult if you don't have an accountant. And, you know, work out what that back end looks like, because your life will be so much easier. And if your life is easier, then you can do more for the business, right? The simplification of it. And the third thing I would say is just on that bit, streamline it. Streamline every part that you can. So if you get to a point where, you know, like we were talking about video editing, right? Like video editing takes a long time. And if you're doing it on your phone and doing like reels and stuff, okay, it's manageable, but it still takes a lot of time. If you can pay somebody to do something that takes a menial task off your hand that you're not very good at and that you're not bothered about being good at, do it. Once you have the money, do it, because that will free up, you know, in terms of say YouTube editing, right? That will free up hours and hours in a week that you can be working on the business and making more money. So yeah, that I think would be it. Run with it, get your back end sorted, and if you can outsource stuff, do.
Harry, mate, that's solid advice. Really,
I want to. Now I'm gonna have to go back and listen to what everyone else has said as well.
They're like, don't run with it. Take your time.
They're not.
A lot of them say similar stuff, mate. Because I bet there's so many veterans out there who've got ideas, and they just stay as ideas. Like I said, mate, we procrastinated about this podcast for 3 years. 3 years of nothing, mate. And we could have, like, you know. Where could we be now if we'd have started back then? It's an interesting.
But shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. If you don't start, you'll never get anywhere. Once you start, put all your energy into it. That's my point. You know, when I say run, you know, run, don't walk. It's not about doing things rashly. It's about putting your all into it. So, for example, like Tegs, who was obviously on the podcast as well, right? And Tegs and I, when we were in Bali, I just talked him through all of the stuff that I've done to streamline my process, which means Tegs can then now take on more clients than he did previously, because there are managing that is quicker and easier because of just certain systems, which means he can make more money. And sure, he might have had to pay extra to get, you know, that system in place or to automate like a lead form or something like that. But it's worth it. If it saves you these hours, you can give a better service within less time, which means you can maintain your clients for longer and you can bring more clients on. And if you're selling a physical product, you know, I think digital products it is a weird one, because you know, this, for example, there's only so much you can automate and things like that before you've got to just do it. Like, we can't speed up the process at which we talk and do it. But when it comes to physical products, if you're doing t-shirts and stuff, you know, find a printer that is going to be able to churn out this massive amount for you really quickly, so that when you do your limited run to start, you just get those first ones out the door. And if people like them, then you just go, right, press play, let's do it. Use that money, build a big run. I did a run of t-shirts when I first started, just around the fitness brand, and sold like 150 of them in like a week. And I don't reckon I could do that now, right? Because I think my following was way smaller and much more engaged in like me as an individual in London. But I sold 150 t-shirts in a week. It took me fucking ages to find the designs, to get the printing done, to get the everything done and whatever. And actually, it's a veteran owned business, right? These guys, Merch Asylum out in Wales. And they were great with it, but it took me ages to work out how to do it. What I had to do, because at the time I had no money, right? And was that I was packing them myself into little like things. So putting a little note in and running down the post office before work, hoping it was open before I had to get on the tube. And if not, then I'd try and catch it before it closed at the end of work. And I've got like a day sack with like my laptop and my gym kit and then 20 t-shirts stuffed in it. And I'm like, can I get these in? And you've got to go through that phase to do it. But the quicker you can finish that phase and get onto mass production, the better. Gymshark, prime example. He made him on his ironing board, and now look at him. He ain't ironing things onto t-shirts anymore, is he? He's got whole factories in China churning out all the stuff. Great, good on him. He's a billionaire.
Yeah, mate. I think it's fascinating. I think like making things lean, automating stuff, and I think even now, and with the development and growth of AI and how easy it can is to create either content or images or whatever, it's fabulous, mate. It's really
and I would say, sorry, the other thing I would say, just is kind of more of a life thing, I guess, for veterans, and I say this to people a lot. Everybody leaves the military saying, I'm going to go get this banging job and it's going to pay me, because Smudge is working on the rigs and he's getting 200 grand a year, like whatever. Do not leave the military to focus on money. It is my single biggest bit of advice. There are plenty of people that make a lot. There are plenty of people that don't. And I found this because I was earning good money in London, like much more than I was on in the military. And okay, fine. I am turning over more than I was in the military and in London, but I wasn't for the last couple of years. I tell you that there's been some very tight months. If you focus only on money, your business will not be a good one, right? You may be able to sell it or do whatever and make money in the long run. But if your entire focus is how do I make more money this month, your business just won't work because you're not invested emotionally into the business. And for all the people that say don't get emotionally invested in your business, I don't think that's a viable thing to say. You spend hours and hours and hours creating this business, this lifestyle, like what you want to do. You turn it to how you want it to be. That's good. People buy into that. Personality is now a huge part of business. And so you've got to, focus on a good quality product and recurring customers rather than what can I make this the biggest profit margin possible, because people want to feel invested in. They really do.
Harry, thank you so much, mate. Loads of lessons. I can't wait. Like, genuinely, it's been a fascinating time talking to you. I could talk to you all day. But thank you so much for giving your time up to come on the podcast. Mate, it's been ace.
No, my pleasure. Thank you very much for asking me on. Like, I know we've been planning to get this on for ages, so it's really nice to be able to do it. And I can't wait to see the finished episode. Now I'm going to call Tegs and tell him that my episode's better than his.
Well, you can have a competition on who gets the most views if you want, mate. I'm down with it, mate. You know what I mean?
Oh, no. We're not doing that.
Listen,
I've got a late millennial audience. He's got a whatever they are, Gen Z audience. They're far better at Instagram than my lot. Might not forget Instagram exists half time.
Mate, I love it. Mate, listen, look after yourself. Take care.
You too, guys. Thanks very much.